A cautious optimism as efforts to end the war between the US and Iran reach a critical stage, with Pakistan in active mediation. Iran says gaps have narrowed following talks between Pakistan's interior minister and Iran's foreign minister in Tehran. The US Secretary of State also pointed to, quote, some good signs in negotiations. But major sticking points remain. Washington wants control over Iran's highly enriched uranium stockpile, which the US says could be used for Tehran's nuclear program. The two sides are also divided over sanctions relief and control of the Strait of Hormuz. The waterway remains a critical flashpoint. Marco Rubio has warned there can be no deal if Tehran pushes ahead with plans to impose tolls on ships that clear passage there. Iran's Revolutionary Guard says 35 ships, including oil tankers and container vessels, passed through the strait in the past 24 hours under its coordination. And Hira Mustafa is tracking developments for CNA live from Islamabad. Hira, from Pakistan's point of view, how close are these two sides to a breakthrough?
Well, what we are hearing from the officials in Pakistan, Islamabad is continuing its back-channel diplomacy. What we do know is that on multiple occasions, the country's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar has reiterated that they're in direct contact with the Iranian leadership, as well as they're in contact with the regional countries. And with the help of the regional countries, they are trying to bridge the gap between the warring parties, Iran and the US. But there is cautious optimism, as you mentioned, in the capital, Islamabad, as there are certain major sticking points with regards to Iran's nuclear program. US has concerns with the stockpiling of Iran's uranium enrichment, as well as the Strait of Hormuz, which is a critical waterway for trading. And ever since the war on Iran has started, the closure of Strait of Hormuz has rattled global markets. It's a point of concern. There are major sticking points which officials here in Islamabad are also admitting, but they are also expressing some sort of positivity, as the country's interior minister, in a last-ditch effort, is in Iran to bridge the gap between the warring parties, to somehow find a middle ground to resolve the conflict permanently. What we are hearing from many analysts in the capital is that Islamabad is going to use all its influence with the help of the regional players, that includes China, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, in order to bring the warring parties to the negotiating table.
All right, Hira, you mentioned Islamabad's influence. What influence can Islamabad bring to bear on these two parties who are on fundamental decisions so very far apart?
Well, Islamabad's role is very pivotal in all these negotiations, because Islamabad not only enjoys a good relationship with Iran, but it is also has the trust of the current U.S. administration. On multiple occasions, we have seen the U.S. President Donald Trump praising Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, as well as the country's army chief, often calling him as favorite field marshal. Similarly, we have seen same sort of statements coming from the Iranian leadership, in which they thanked Pakistan for mediating talks between both the warring parties. The country's interior minister currently is on a trip to Tehran. It's important to note here that it's the second trip of the interior minister in less than a week, which signals the urgency of the matter. What we are hearing from different diplomatic sources is that he is there to bring both the warring parties to find a middle ground. He's facilitating communication between Iran and the US, and there are speculations and rumors that he's also there to somehow bring the warring parties to achieve some sort of framework to end the hostilities permanently. He's someone who is very close to the country's army chief, who in Islamabad is being viewed as a very important figure in mediating talks between the US and Iran.
Oh, thanks. Hira Mustafa there, reporting live for CNA from Islamabad. Of course, Pakistan, a very active party in mediating these indirect talks between the US and Iran.